Yes.
Do you want to start or should I start? Okay. So we decided to do this one because a lot of chapters aren't sure how to go about hosting an event, whether it be something on your campus, like putting together a lot of times your honors in action or your college project may include an event on campus, and so maybe you're not sure how to go about doing that. Or you want to take the next step and you want to do an event with multiple chapters, or something like Beta Pi Rho just took on, and our chapter did earlier this year, the biggie, taking on a regional event. And so this is to help you learn how to do it, some best tips, problems that you might run into, suggestions that we can give you, and then questions about, what should we do for this? How do we do that? It's kind of what we have here. I passed this around if you didn't get a copy. It's the beginnings of a kit for how to host a regional event. Because we're trying to get more chapters to get involved in it, whether it's they host it themselves or they co-host with another chapter. Because then that allows us to move the events around and not just the same areas always hosting them. Plus, it's really fun to do, and you learn a lot. I mean, most of the skills that you learn, as you've now learned,
Yes.
the stuff that you learn in doing these events, you're probably going to use them at your job. If you get involved with a nonprofit, and all kinds of things. So these are skills that are really good, and chances are, unless you're in hospitality and tourism, you're never going to learn any of this in school. So it really helps. And the nice thing is you have a regional team behind you that will help. So we're always glad to help with as much as we can. So,
okay, so starting off, well, I guess I could just share kind of how we started.
Yeah,
If that's better. I like to kind of speak through the stories.
That's what I was thinking.
So we started planning this in June, actually, not too far after our induction. So we were all inducted May 31st at Lisa Chow and her, got our officer positions, and then within 2 weeks we had our first meeting.
We kind of surprised you guys. They had signed up at spring convention, because that's usually when we do the next year's events. And then they get inducted over there. We're like, and guess what, guys? You're doing the fall conference.
Just smiling, come here. I'm like, okay, yeah. But it was good that we started as early as we did. Especially, not even knowing, we kind of learned about PTK along the way. But starting out, really, as we got together and did the whole, like the ABC priority list. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Right? Is everybody? Okay. And we just kind of started breaking it down, like when you start to see down here, like into what we would need to do to find a location. I just kind of had bigger topics, figuring out the budget first, so we knew what we had to work with, all of the major components, and then broke it down into smaller things. So then you get into the meals, and you get into
you're on site though?
The icebreakers, or all the different things, the little things that come at the end. And we started
so go down the stairs.
giving each officer, we did it with officers, but I'm sure active members could probably be involved too. Kind of did like we could hold up like a committee.
Yes.
So like I work on the service project mainly, and then I would come back and relay information to everybody. And then everybody had a different job, and we kind of just delegated it out that way. And we started working with a big calendar, and we all had a paper calendar, and started making deadlines and timelines of when we would have this ready.
Paper calendars are really good. I
Yeah.
mean, you want to put it in your own electronic calendar or planner, but if you can have something big, like those nice wipe-off ones, and being able to have it and say maybe you have an office space or a little corner or whatever at your college, your advisor's office, wherever it may be, and you put it up and then you can see them. And you're constantly looking at them and remembering, we've got this deadline and this deadline. Because it's easy to not pay attention to the ones that are weeks out on your phone because you don't see them as often.
Exactly.
But when it's up on the board, you see it.
And we had a big one, and then we also had smaller ones that we each had, and then we color-coded everything. We're also all we color-coded everything, but I think it made the overall process, it made it easier because, of course, you're going to run into moments where there's challenges. I mean, it's going to happen. it was easier for us to go around it and focus on other things and get other things prepared. Or what could we do if this one thing isn't working? Like, a big thing for us is here we go to start with the budget, and then we find out that Bella's not in a position.
That was the hard thing.
It was
They started with Evelda saying, tell Nicole that I'll be here to support you and everything, and then we found out we lose our regional coordinator. We no longer have a regional coordinator, and that's who does a lot of the work. And so suddenly it was put onto all of us volunteer officers who had never done those things, didn't know how to do them, trying to learn how to take on Velda's role to support them.
And so when we found this out, we had to, it was like, okay, what can we do? We can't control this. So what can we do to keep moving forward? So we started researching, what kind of camps do we want to do? What kind of lodging do we want to do? And it was like, well, even if we can't actually reserve these now, we can at least have like our top 3 or our top 2. And that's what we did is we got down to between here and we ended up narrowing it down that this would be the better price, the better experience, and all of that. But then that way, once that budget did come through, we weren't waiting on it. It was like it just opened up the avenue so we could finally move forward with things, and we didn't lose time. So that was a big hurdle in the beginning.
Yeah, because time is your enemy if you're putting on a big event. And so
Yeah.
getting that planning done and starting as soon as you can. May of last year, we were in Utah for, that's where the spring regional was. And then regional meeting comes and Melissa stands up, okay, who's going to host this event? Who's going to host this event? And we're sitting there looking at each other like, let's do it, let's do it. And then we look back at Beth, because you have to have advisor buy-in before you can host a regional event. And she's like, okay, if you guys want to. And so like immediately, as soon as we're done with there, we had open time. And we just went back to the one hotel room and immediately started writing out a list. These are the things that need to be done, what needs to go first, because sometimes lodging, you need a year in advance. And so being able to start right away is important. I mean, like we were trying to do fall conference last year in Eugene. Yeah, right. Try to find a hotel that's going to hold all of us and space to have a meeting and everything. Yeah, it's called duck games.
Yeah, exactly.
But had we been doing it a year out, they're like, yeah, because then people hadn't booked.
Yeah.
We're like, we would have been happy to book a block of you, but we were just too close to be able to do it. So that's why we like getting these events signed on as quick as possible, because then that gives, say your chapter decides they want to take on this event next year. They could step up. We have a regional meeting today. If you had your advisors buy-in, you could step up today and say, we want to host next year's fall, and I'll give you a year. Instead of waiting till spring and then only having spring to fall. But then you get all that planning time and stuff, which is so very important.
I know this is kind of should be a kind of a dumb moment, I guess. Without saying it, communication was huge. Even with all of us, we all communicate really well, but even with all of us knowing what we were doing and having everything set up, there were still so many times that it was like, okay, this has happened, and we would kind of shoot ideas off of each other, or sometimes you would have to do something and come back and go, okay, this didn't work out, I did this in the meantime, or I have a solution to this. And it was really a lot of us having the research around our obstacles that we had that I think in the end saved time. Because we felt like at times it was like, oh my gosh, are we going to have everything done? Because of these big hiccups. But I think it was just us continually moving around these obstacles that in the end, we weren't even stressed out. The last couple of days, I mean, it was intense, but we had everything lined up. It made it a lot easier.
Yeah, because that's what I did, because when we took on the spring regional, because I was one of the few officers that was staying, plus was a regional officer, it made sense that I would lead. And so every time there was something, I always researched several options. Like I went out and visited, because we decided to do a camp, because it's cheap. We could get a lot of people, the cheaper it is. And we have this issue where we have things at one site in a hotel, and we lose people. They don't participate because they go back to their hotel room, and that's it. They can hang out in their hotel room. If it's here, do you want to hang out in your rooms? Or do you want to hang out with each other? So that was, we're like, fellowship, we need more fellowship. And so I just went and visited a whole bunch of camps because we were trying to find one that was big enough because we're like, we want 100 people or more. Did it. But then that knocked out a bunch of the camps. This one here was booked. And they're like, next weekend. The next weekend is Mother's Day.
Yeah, exactly.
The next 2 ones, graduation in Idaho and Utah. Not an option. So, you know, we're locked into one day. And I just kept visiting as many camps as I could until found one that was open. And that we just fell in love with because it was just in a beautiful setting. But, you know, that's not letting those obstacles get in your way is really important. Because what happens is you spend so much time on it, suddenly weeks have gone by, you're almost at your event, and there's still stuff undone.
Yeah. It definitely felt, it just popped into my head, it was like a blending. Like once that budget came in, because we didn't allow that to hamper us and to stop us, it was like we just suddenly had the power to put all these things together that we had already been creating on the sides. And we just, you know, yes, there were lots of extra meetings and extra time. And I know that we all went through, our brains were kind of, that's why yesterday we were all just like, hi everyone! Like, you know, there was extra stuff that we had to put in, but we were good about communicating that it's like, we need to all step up and say, you know, I need help with this, or I think it actually helped us as a chapter be able to lean on each other better because we were all willing to be like, okay, I have this on me, this person's going to try out this, or maybe my thing's done at the moment and I can help this person do something, or this person has to go to work and she needs to talk to Jenny, so I will send them to that that will do this. I mean, just even said, okay, obstacle with meeting for Jenny to even make this workshop happen.
Yeah.
Our schedule's almost the exact opposite.
So, it's like their meeting, I'm just getting out of class, and at that time of day, it takes an hour or more to get to her, even though it's not that far, but it's Portland.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, by the time I get there and get parked, you guys are going to be leaving. And that doesn't include eating time. That was leave class and come to you.
And do nothing but drive. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for a couple of weeks, we've been trying to get together, and then it turned into, okay, well, if you can't come to a chapter meeting, maybe just you and I can get together. And then that wasn't going to happen. So then it turned into, we're doing a grouping where we can all talk to each other.
And sometimes that's what you have to do because you get so many people on different schedules and you're each working on your part. Email becomes very important because you can share documents. You know, you may want to look at if it's really important. Say it's your honors and action project. Maybe you create a a Google Drive space where you share documents and because you can collaborate on a document. And one person goes in and makes edits and it saves, another person can come in and make edits. And just having a space where everything is shared and you know how to get to it. You don't have to go, okay, I'm going through my email. Is this the latest? Is this the latest one? Okay, 2 people sent me a document, which is the right one. Having one space like that can really help, especially with things like your honors and action and college project, because you have research and you have all kinds of information about this is done and we need this from the school or we need that, and you can kind of share it and then people can look at it in their own time. I mean, you're going to have some people that are day students, some people at night, and they work, and you can't all get together always at the same time. I mean, I'm sure you've run into this, just getting an officer meeting, everybody there is hard. And just think, once it comes event planning time, whether it's college project and honors and action, or you're doing a regional, those are additional meetings. There's no time for that in your regular one other than an update. I did this, I called this, I still need to do this. That's about all you're going to get in your officer meeting. So these are going to be additional meetings to any time you're planning an event. And so if you can move some of that online so that people can look at it throughout the day in their own time, it's just what we usually try to do is set a rule unless there's something like, you're at school all day and you worked and you slept. We usually can learn those things about each other. With the exception of stuff like that, it's a 24-hour rule. Something gets posted, you send an email saying, I posted this, can you go look? People need to respond within 24 hours. Because that's professional etiquette, is a 24-hour turnaround. So that's what we try to do, is really hit on that. We posted it, now people have 24 hours. Because what happens is, like Jamie's waiting to hear back from everybody and she's sitting and waiting when she could be doing work. And so that's why it's that 24-hour turnaround. And it becomes very important in events.
Yeah, we actually even had times where I was just thinking where we wanted to meet in person. We didn't do it with you because you were busy doing your thing, but even when we had spoke with Sean, the alumni, about like, I worked with him with the service project a lot, and we even had times where he had things happen and he wasn't able to get to the meetings, and we had all planned this time, and so we had a couple times where we just did like a group speakerphone conversation and just found ways to work around it and just work with what we had.
And sometimes people just can't be there. Jeff and I came to your meeting and you had something. That was it. I was going to say, were you the one that was sick?
I wasn't there.
Did you? And then somebody else was at student government thing or something.
Yeah, I think Marion was the only one there, wasn't it?
No, there was two and
You were there too, Michelle?
no.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure there's two, but we got together as many people as we could, and then just started brainstorming. Okay, what sessions do we want to have? What activities do we want to have? And we started brainstorming, and then we started moving around. Okay, and then who's going to do what? And we got together as many people as we could, and then you guys got to see it. If you had any input, then changes happen. But
another thing we did too was make sure, depending on where you have it, because I'm sure some probably has different things than a hotel would. But when you're prioritizing, the last couple of weeks are when all the small things come together. So that's when you're like getting the extra stuff and all the little tiny. I mean, there's all kinds of things to do, but they're more of the like tiny up stuff. So we even had a couple of meetings where it was like multitasking. We were updating each other, eating lunch, making your little goodie bags, and a big conveyor belt line, and then we were also doing glitter glue and making PTK signs out for the street, and it all happened in like 4 hours. I mean, we also had a time where Nicole was amazing and had us over at her house, and we maybe braided what? A couple of these. Nahos are master braiders. And like 4 hours of making these lanterns, and Nicole made us better, and we all just went to her house. Yes, it took time out of our day, but it was all done, and then we didn't have to go out and spend extra money. So it's a good way to be recruited too.
the nice thing about that is because you got together off campus and you ate. It's fellowship.
Yeah, exactly.
And they say anytime you break bread together, it increases the relationship between. So getting together like that, I mean, that's a great way to do it.
And it made it fun. Yeah, it wasn't just like us and cheers in the room. It was like, tired, because we would do that. So it was a good break in that.
I have a question. How do you enforce the 24-hour term?
It can be hard. I mean, we run into it. Some of my chapter members are here now. But usually because we've had it several times, like I posted the survey and said, hey, can people look at this? And I waited and waited. And I'm like, did nobody see it? Did my email? I know it went out, and I got, because we have a mail list that's it has all our current officers, our advisor. We have a little office, and it has a computer that has its own email address, and the school gives us a copy goes there. Plus, any of our old officers can stay on the list, so we have some of our old officers there too. And so you send it to them, like, okay, to somebody print it, go out to everybody. So that's when, like in meetings, we start really pushing, you have to respond. And then, like our advisor has sent out an email before, we've got to respond. And usually what happens is you can have it in your dialogue. Maybe they're already, there can be warnings given to officers if they're not following things. Because part of being a chapter officer is taking on a professional role, and there's professional etiquette that goes with that. And it may be that people just aren't used to professional etiquette. And it may be that there's somebody on your campus, like maybe in a career and planning development center or whatever it's called on your campus. There's usually you have one. They do a lot of the career development, job fairs, and all that kind of stuff. They may be able to come to your meeting, do a workshop, and include your members as well, and they can talk about professional etiquette. Competitive Edge has stuff in there about professional etiquette. Exactly. That's why I'm the queen of competitive edge. I love competitive edge. So anytime I get to doing competitive edge, I will. But some of it's just training people in those in that etiquette, and then. So what I like to do is get them training in, and then if they continue to do it, then it's no longer I didn't know, I didn't understand. It's the choice not to do it, and that's when you can start looking at, there's a written warning, and maybe your bylaws say after so many written warnings, you can't be removed, or you don't get your tuition reimbursement, you can't go on the trips, you know, whatever it may be. Exactly. But the key is making sure that they know it first, and they understand it, why it's important, and then you can start doing those kinds of things. But it's hard, because people get busy.
Yeah, that's what it's trouble. It's like I have this, you know, I'm a planner. I'm like, I plan and color code my schedule, and it's balanced. But I think that's kind of my general 24-hour rule. And so with some of these projects, it's like I'm wanting to move forward, and I'm not wanting to wait a week until we have another meeting where we only have an hour to talk and we don't even get to what we need to talk about. And I'm like, hello,
Exactly. Yeah, and that can be hard. That's why we created the email list, so that we know everybody gets it. Because what happens is some people, you know, put in all the addresses. Somebody forgets to do a reply all, and only one person gets it. So having an email list where everybody's in it, you send it to one address, and you know it goes to everybody, helps, because then you're sure everybody's getting it. And so when somebody says, oh, I'm not getting the emails, you're like, no, it goes to everybody. You know, check your junk box, to check there, but it's like, it is going. It's not that somebody forgot to put you in an email. And then, you know, if you have to start bringing in consequences, do that, because we're essentially training for the professional world in here. And so, you know, sometimes you may have somebody that's fresh out of high school and is not used to it, or maybe they always work for themselves, and so they don't understand how those things work. And so making sure that they understand it, and then giving them consequences.
So I have a question. What do you do when the committee or the officer, you have a certain amount of people that you can meet with, but you have other people that you cannot meet with for some reason or another, and you just can't get everyone together in one room for more than 5 minutes?
Right. Yeah, and that's going to be common with pretty much every officer team. Like, we meet for 2 hours, Fridays from 8 a.m. to 9:50 is when we have to be out of the room. My daughter doesn't get picked up on the school bus until just before 9. And because of her autism, she rides the bus. I have to be there to put her on the bus. I can't be there. Just as I come, our current president is leaving. So we're not in a meeting together. And so we stretched it to 2 hours so we can get some people throughout the whole thing. So that was one way that we did it, is stretch it out, because then you get more people. But then that's where email becomes important. Getting really good minutes of your meetings and getting them out as fast as you can. Like part of last year, our admin assistant was gone, and I didn't have time to type them. I just made sure I wrote really clear. I scanned them, PDF'd them, and sent them out. And I said I couldn't even type them, but here they are. And you got them the same day as the meeting. So minutes is really important. Getting out agendas early, because then if somebody can't make it and they look and they see a topic, they're like, oh, here's my ideas on that topic, and they can send them to you ahead of time. If you wait to get the agenda at the meeting, then people that can't make it aren't going to be able to give their input. Where they may have a report already ready on something, or some kind of input that they can give you. And so if you can get the agenda out 2 or 3 days ahead of time, and then just say, if you've got anything you can't make it, please get it to us before, the night before, so we can print it out or whatever. Really helps. Email, trying to do things online, like Google Hangout, Skype.
I've heard of Google Hangout. What is it really?
What it is it's part of Google Plus. So if you have like a Gmail account or a Google account, you have it. And you open up a Hangout and you invite people. And if they have a video camera, you see them. Like the person that's talking, their video pops up. And then you have little videos down at the bottom of everybody else that's on it. And you can talk and you can have a meeting. For people, like sometimes, your video camera's missing, or you don't have one or whatever, there's a little chat on the side, and so you can type. There's been times where I had a terrible connection, couldn't get the video, but I could type, and then I could participate. I could hear them, for whatever reason, my video, just an audio was not loading. And it allows you to really meet when you're stretched thin. Like maybe you can't be at a meeting because you have a child, or you have to be at home. Well, you can get on your Google Hangout and say maybe everybody else is in the meeting, and they set up a laptop, and you're somewhere else, but they're all there.
What I've noticed with my personal chapter is that we've had problems with, there's class, they tutor, because they're in PTK, and they're the
We're
extra,
overachievers.
we're the overachievers. We're in everything. We're stretched so thin to where you have to use a microscope to see us. And for some reason, though, or another, we can't get together. And as a president, I'm worried that we're not going to be able to get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, and that's where, when you're so busy like that, that's when the email and stuff like that really comes in handy, because then you can still talk to each other, and each person can do it on their time. It's just like I said, that's when you have to start forcing the 24-hour rule, because it can't hang, because then, like I said, nothing's going to get done. And another thing that you can do, we've been experimenting with, is trying to say, okay, next term, so winter term, our meetings are Wednesdays from noon to 1. Do not schedule. And we heard from chapters at International that that is their rule. They set it, and you do not make anything at that time. And if you make something at that time, you're gone. Because they said that they just got tired of it, that they're just, people weren't showing up. And people knew that you need to leave this time open, yet they would schedule a class at that time, knowing that that was meeting time. And so you can do that. You don't have to be harsh about it, so you're going. But they won a lot of awards, so I don't know. But just setting it ahead of time. It's like, okay, winter, it's going to be this time, spring, it's going to be this time. That way people have it long before they set their schedules, and then they can work around it. And we've had more luck with that lately. I mean, me and Shulay seem to be the one missing, but everybody else has the time available. And if I didn't have to get on the bus, I'd be able to be there. But my husband goes to work at between 4 and 7 a.m., so he's not going to do it. And so there will be times where there's something you just absolutely can't work with. You can't move it. But that's why, you try to pick something not too early in the morning, or if you have parents, or later in the afternoon because you're getting kids off to school. But just setting it up in advance and saying, look, these are the times that we need you to not walk to class. Because last year we didn't do that, and we would end up with like 2 officers at this meeting, 3 at this, and we had like 10 officers. So it was really hard. And so what would happen is one person had their office hours next, and the president was there, and so then they would pass information on that person, and it was lots of sharing, and not everything got shared. Yeah, it was very much telephone.
Okay. See, we don't have 10 officers. We have our 3 executives, and then we have 2 non-executives. That's all we got.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
If you want to know how we schedule, I had everybody send their schedules to me, or does that show you in Excel?
That's what I did, and for some weird reason or another, there's no.
So when, and then we had issues with best half where only one person would be missing, and that's how we ended up meeting Fridays at 8 a.m.
We can kind of keep track of it and say.
Not exactly the time you want to meet at the end of the week, but
Yeah.
when we get 90% of the team, well, we have 100% of the team there for at least about an hour. That's work. And you can also use Doodle. Okay. I just went blank. Doodle allows you to take and set some days and times, and then send it out to everybody and say, fill in your availabilities. And then you can see real quick. We use that a lot in the regional team when we have other meetings that we can set.
Over at our school at Lane Community College, we are now, our school just purchased, and we're testing out the OrgSync, ORG.SYNC program, and a lot of the officers or members are also on the government program, a couple other, and with that, we're able to send out with just one click, a text, an email, and everything to everybody, and it can also include any of the student life, multicultural, or any of this really all in one. We're testing it out now. We're just doing the training and learning about it, but it organizes your calendar.
Yeah, because that's probably the hardest thing when you're planning an event, is getting them together so that you know who to meet. I mean, even when you break it down into committees, and it's only 2 or 3 people meeting, it can be hard.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
So, I need your, because we did
So what kind of event do all of them have? And how many
We don't do a lot of events because for some reason our school, even though it says in the school regulations that we are a co-curricular, we're not treated like a co-curricular. So we don't get a budget. So the money that we have to spend is what we bring in through members. And most of that goes to things like honors in action and college project. We spend quite a bit of money on those. So our events oftentimes are whenever we put together for our honors in action event. We do every club fair that we can. We do welcome week. And we do signing days through welcome week and club fair in the fall. And so we're out there tabling every week. We're trying to do member meetings again. We'll see how successful that is. We're supposed to do something for the members. I don't know what the sock violation, twice a term, I think it is. So we're trying to see if we can do something once a month to get some kind of member meeting together. Like Jeff talks about maybe workshops where he brings somebody in, something where people would want to come to it. We do our big induction. We only do one big induction a year, and it's in May, and it's big. It's semi-formal. People dress up. We have hors d'oeuvres. It's really, really nice. Yeah, it varies. I know some people do two. They'll do one early in the year, and then their big one. We do informal ones throughout, one every term. And we just do it like at the beginning of one of our meetings, and maybe a couple people come and they get sworn in. And if we know a good number of people are going to come, maybe we buy them cake or something. What other events do we do?
We're trying to work with SG out there and bring a speaker with Jonathan Alvin. And then we're trying to also work with other groups on campus.
And we do a lot of that, like, because we have what's called SOC on our campus, Student Organization Council, and every club and organization on campus is supposed to come. And if you don't come, you don't get funding. So if you're active, they're coming. And they'll let us know about their events. And so we usually try to partner up with their events as much as possible, help them. Plus, we get a table, we get to hopefully bring in some new members. Some campuses do a lot more, like Lynn Bentley. Jeff's so lucky, they get treated like a co-curricular, so they have a budget to spend. Plus, they get to go and ask for money for international and such. Where us, we don't ask for any money except for international and regional because we want to go to the conventions. So they do things like lunch, free lunch. They've got free subs, and they do it in their main area, and they get a lot of people to come. I think they do a lot more workshops and stuff because they can afford the money for the publicity and maybe some food, because nothing brings out college students like free food, even if it's popcorn. So check with your student governments. They may have a popcorn machine, or somebody on campus may have a popcorn machine. We took, and our student government has it, and we went to cash and carry and got the big box of the popcorn. And so now, they're like, whenever you want to use it, as long as we're not, you can borrow it, because we have the popcorn and the supplies and everything. And you know, people smell the popcorn, so that one's really nice. I think that's about it. I wish we did a lot more events on campus, but when we have limited funding, then it's hard to get any publicity out. You can't buy any food. We're not allowed to buy food off campus. We have to buy food from our food service unless it's potluck. So it gets expensive. Even the cases of water, even the things of water. And because our college pays for part of the membership fee for everybody, we don't want to go against the school rules and lose any of the stuff that we do get. So we very much follow our school's rules about that stuff.
Our chapter's planning a Halloween, or teaming up with our ASBCC, and we're going to do a Halloween costume thing to get new members and members to participate. Because our, like, I guess they're looking for like a zombie. We don't have to be a zombie, but anyway, our chapter's going to be doing an event that does allow them to get more members, active members.
And that's why we like teaming up with student government, because their events typically have food. And that brings people out. And like, we just had club fair, and they have food. But to get the food, there was a passport. The passport had to be stamped by so many of the clubs. And so we had people coming by the table like crazy. They wanted their cookie and their pizza. And so they couldn't get their stamp until they filled out the commitment to completion card and signed the banner. That was how they got their stamp from us. And so we were reeling them in because they wanted free food. So if your student government doesn't already do something like that, passports, or sometimes they do the tickets, every table you go to, if you do whatever their thing is, you get a ticket, which then goes into like, iPads and all kinds of stuff. So if your student government isn't doing that, maybe talk to them about it, because that is a great way to get them, if you are doing some kind of club fair kind of events, that's a great way to get people to come to the tables. And since they have to interact before they get the stamp, the ticket, or whatever, it increases our chances of members. And we got lucky this time. Our membership campaign opened right before the event. Amber sent out the email saying, hey, kids, your packet's coming in the mail, here's why you want to be a member and everything. They were coming by the table like crazy. We got your email. Can you tell us about it? And so Julie and I were like crazy telling people all about why they want to be a member of Theta, because this email went out right before the event. So like, I think we need to do that more often. The day before, hitting people up. And there's free food and everything. That really helped.
Our faculty helps us, like, we do class reps, and so they help, like, if you miss, like, our members or officers will go do a presentation, take apps, and then it's easy when you get in.
As long as it's
Yeah, and that's great if you're doing that event on campus, like your Honors in Action project. Usually, you do some kind of event where you want people on campus to come. If you can get hooked up with the professors, you go in and do class wraps. You've worked on some handbills, right? That they then run and go put in every instructor's box. Our advisor sends out an email to everybody in the English department, since that's where she's at. Sometimes the president's office will allow an all-staff email. So then she writes an all-staff email that goes to all of them, saying, there's this event, we'd love to come to your class. Please talk to us about your students, and trying to get more people to do that. Our Honors in Action project last year, we figured out the project was us. We did not know how to work together as a team. Because there's, like we've been talking about, this competition, time, and other responsibilities, and how do you take that to have a win-win, so that everybody gets something out of it and you're successful. So we had all these, like Velda came in because she's really good at stuff like team building, and people from the campus that worked with us on that. And then we put together this workshop, how to be successful when your grade or job satisfaction depends on it. That's the title. We had 77 people come because we worked with the professors. Some professors gave extra credit because they said, group work, how many classes have group work? And is it successful very often? No, because people don't know how to work together. They don't understand that I am an I, and I need stuff ahead of time so that I can look at it. I need time to think. If you're an extrovert, you talk, and the next extrovert, the moment you take the breath, the next extrovert comes in, and I will sit there and wait, and then I never say anything. And so you have to learn how to work with those, and you have to learn how to identify it yourself so that you get more aggressive and you advocate for yourself or whatever. So it was perfect for classes, for them being better group work. So the professors are like, they have a forum, you get it, you bring it back to me as extra credit. And so we packed the room.
It's cold.
Never, we hadn't held an event that we won awards for, and we had 4 people show up. But we talked about, what we did wrong, what we wish we'd done, and they love that because we were honest. But it feels so much better to have 70-something people than 4. So yeah, working with the professors, class reps, anything like that you can do, really helps. That's if you're doing events on campus, which since if you want to be a 5-star, you have to do some events on campus because of at least your Honors in Action, because that's required that you do some kind of event to get the information out. That's how you're going to get people to show up, is you got to work the classes. You're only going to get so many people in your main mall area or your cafeteria or whatever it may be. Classes is where you're going to get them.
So, I'm new to Phi Theta Kappa. I was inducted last year, and now I decided to become the president, and I'm working.
Just like you.
We're both in the same boats.
The night I was inducted.
Yeah, I love it. They do their induction, they do induction and election. I love it.
I had a month to think.
I do like 11 minutes.
Well, that's good. You make the right choice. But back to what I was going to say. I'm working with my chapter on an Honors and Actions project. And I've never seen one. I've never seen, like, how, like, I understand you did the research. I understand you do the programming, the planning and everything. But where is the action that takes place?
It really varies. Like, I can give you a couple examples of what our chapter's done over the years. One year there, because the topic used to be about information. And so they did, their project was, where do you wear? And it was about how the place your clothes come from, where your shoes come from, how that affects the country that it's done in, the people there, and all that stuff. And of course they realized they had business people, and they had to bring in some business people to go over it. And then they held a big event that talked about the consequences of those Nikes. What does it do to that country? Or those cheap clothes that run, that they're so cheap that it drives down wages so low in a country they can barely survive. And they did this big presentation. But then they had popcorn and I think cake and a couple of, they had like a full room of all these people that came to listen about what they learned about clothing and why it matters, what it's made out of, where it comes from. And people were really interested in it because they're like, I didn't realize that, by buying these clothes that somebody else is getting paid 4 cents an hour and can barely make their wages and, live in a building, their building that they work in's condemned and, all this stuff. If you just put a little more pressure on the companies that you buy stuff from, they'd be willing to make changes and things like that. So that was their action their years. They held this informational meeting. The next year, the one that we had the whole 4 people show up, well, we did 2. The first one 4 showed up. We realized that in our district there was like 60,000 people that had started college, never finished. We wanted to know why and how could we help them get restarted. So we did what we called a restart hunt. We had every service on campus there. They had the iPads ready to register people. But the problem was, with our tiny budget, we couldn't get it out to the community the way we needed to. So we had some people show up, but only 4 people that were actually going to go to school. And so then we did a second part that was on a Saturday where it was more workshops and not so much tabling. We had like 20-something people show up to that. That was really nice. And so that was really our action, was we realized that they needed help. How can we help them? So we held these 2 events. And then this last year we did that workshop that I was talking about your job satisfaction grade. And we had somebody from our career planning department, do Myers-Briggs, talk about what the different types mean, how you work together, the things that you have to do, like the agendas ahead of time, have a break, come back to the topic, all that kind of stuff. But it really, it depends on the question you pick and what your research is. It's all about getting the information out that you learn, and if you can do something to help people at the same time, then you bring in not just your leadership and your scholarship, but you're bringing in service as well. So that's really nice, but it really varies, and you're always welcome to email any of us in the regional team and say, hey, we're looking at this, can you give us some ideas, or we think this, and what do you think?
We also have you guys come to our events.
Oh yes, as a matter of fact, in the next newsletter, there's going to be a thing on there. On the regional website, there's a big blue button on the front page. It's down a little bit right now, just the fall conference, but it says, post your events or submit your events. We want all chapters to go on there and submit your events. And they go into moderation, because it's spammers. And then one of us goes in and we see that there's new events, and we approve them, and then they're on the calendar. Then we know when they are, where they are, and we can try to get them scheduled into our schedules. Because we love coming to events.
And I'm guessing probably at least a couple of months in advance, like most
I
events.
would imagine.
Exactly, because of work and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Topic is very good. We're plan ahead.
exactly. Because sometimes what'll happen, like if you guys, Caleb may have to work, but then Jeff can come.
Right.
And so that happens. And sometimes there's stuff I can't go to. Jeff comes all the way.
That would be great.
So.
Okay.
Okay. Nice. We like club.
Yeah. Well, she'll
You
be
guys are
working
so
for
close.
government at the time
same idea, and then started talking, and it was like,
Yeah, collaboration is so important. Because anytime you can collaborate with other groups, like you may look at your honors and action project and it's on this topic, and you look, and there's a club on campus that focuses on that.
It's perfect for, like the one we're doing, it's perfect for the psychology department.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what we did when we started looking at psychology. We went and started talking to some of the professors and said, would you be able to help us when we write in that project? Can you make it? And see, if your topic is psychology, have them read it and say, because they don't know anything about your project. And there's a list of questions that you have to fill out about these. Then they look and they say, okay, here's the questions and here's your